Novated leases are often talked about like they're some sort of cheat code. People hear things such as save huge amounts of tax, or you'd be silly not to buy a car this way. But what's really going on in a novated lease? This video isn't about telling people that they're a bad idea. It's also not about selling them as a great idea. What it's about is helping us to understand exactly what's going on inside a novated lease, and when you take out a novated lease, what you're really getting yourself into. Hopefully, it'll give you some sort of idea on whether or not it's the right decision for you and your circumstances. Most explanations of novated leases start with something along the lines of, this is how much tax you'll save. I actually think that's part of the problem. Good financial decisions don't start with, how much tax can I save? They start with, how much I'm actually paying for this and what am I getting in return for my money? So let's take a step back and find out what's really going on with a novated lease and what is it in plain English. First, a really important point. Novated leases are for employees. And generally, if you're a sole trader or you're operating your own business, then it won't apply to you. It's essentially a salary packaging arrangement that's offered by an employer to an employee to hopefully allow them to gain some extra benefits as being part of their company. Instead of being paid your full salary, what will happen is you will purchase your vehicle and then you're going to use the salary packaging arrangement to pay for portions of that vehicle prior to you being taxed. In a normal circumstance, obviously you get your salary and then your marginal tax rate, and then the rest of the money is put into your bank account. With a novated lease, this amount that's taxed can be slightly reduced by the fact that you've paid for some of your vehicle from your pre-tax earnings. Sounds powerful, but in theory, there is some nuance to it, and you've got to make sure that it is the right decision for you. Normally, your pay works like this. You earn money, tax is taken out, and then you're paid what's remaining. From the remaining amount, you then go and pay for things like your rent, groceries, or even your car. With a novated lease, the order of this changes. You feel the cost of everything. That's because it's all being paid out of your post-tax money. With a novated lease, that order changes. With a novated lease, there's three parties involved. You've got yourself as the person borrowing and buying the car. Then you've got the lender, so the finance company that you're going to use, and then you have the employer. So instead of just yourself and a bank or yourself and a finance company, you're getting an agreement with your employer to be part of this whole arrangement. So from your employer, instead of the tax being taken out first, they'll first make some payment for the vehicle, and then you're going to go through the normal process. That's why people say it feels like you're spending pre-tax money to buy a car. Spending money before tax does have a real effect. Take, for example, if you're in the highest tax bracket. Spending $1,000 pre-tax may feel similar to spending only $500 after tax. This is the entire appeal of novated leasing. But here's a key thing to remember. Just because you're getting something at a discount doesn't automatically make it cheap. It just makes it slightly more affordable than it otherwise would have been. And that distinction matters. For a long time, novated leases had a big catch: fringe benefit tax. Basically, when an employer provides a benefit that's not monetary to one of their employees, such as in this case, a car, the tax office sees that as what they call a fringe benefit. As a result of that, they want their portion of the pie, so the employer can actually incur a mounting tax bill as a result of providing that benefit. Now, of course, most employers don't want to pay that tax, so a workaround was created. Now, that workaround was called the employee contribution method. Now, what a lot of people don't see when it comes to their novated lease is that although there is a portion paid pre-tax, there's also a substantially large portion which is paid post-tax. And here's where some things can start to fall apart. Not only do they have the large portion paid post-tax, novated leases may also be subject to higher interest rates. Not in every circumstance, but obviously something to be mindful of. People can often forget that it is still a loan, and at the end of the day, interest and fees can make up a large portion of that. Otherwise, eating into savings, they might get through something like just a normal car loan, or if they have the means to, paying cash. Now, these reasons are part of the reason that novated leases have earned quite a mixed reception over the years in Australia. In 2022, something huge happened. With EVs becoming far more mainstream, they became exempt from fringe benefits tax under a certain value. And what that meant was that the workaround that was put in place previously was no longer needed. Therefore, employees could then pay for far more of their car out of the pre-tax earnings than they otherwise could have. Now, this changes the whole equation when you're comparing a novated lease on an EV versus a novated lease on a standard vehicle. Now, with this change in place, obviously a lot of people were jumping on novated leases with EVs, and of course there's some benefits to it, but we have to make sure that we do slow down. It's not an automatic win. So in terms of the loan itself, we're making sure that we're not falling victim to the things such as higher interest rates, fees which are either hidden, not disclosed, or just far more exorbitant than any other loan product. There's also some further restrictions on a novated lease. So you cannot put any equity into the vehicle from the start, which I think is important to know. Like, obviously people buy vehicles, they like to sometimes put money down. You're also committing to a long-term lease in many circumstances, and at the end of that lease, you're not paying the vehicle off in full. So you're still going to owe a large portion of what that car is worth at the end of the loan. And a lot of people, especially in Australia, don't like the idea of this. People like to pay things down and eventually own that asset. I think with novated leases, it's important to understand that there are some risks that don't get a huge amount of airtime when it comes to an exciting decision-making time when you're purchasing a new car. Everyone can get caught up in the glitz and the glamour of these tax savings and fringe benefit tax and all of the confusion that can come with that, and forget that they are entering a long-term commitment, and a novated lease is restricted in how you enter that. You can't trade a vehicle in and have equity go towards that purchase. You can't put a large cash deposit, which would otherwise reduce the amount of interest that you're paying over the life of a loan. And you can't generally change employers simply. If your new employer, for example, doesn't want to take on the novated lease, then that can cause an issue. So it does keep you a little bit restricted when it comes to what sort of flexibility you have in comparison to some other purchasing methods. Now, none of this means that it's a bad idea. It just means that a novated lease is not risk-free. Now, this is why I don't like the whole tax saved marketing ploy as a selling point. A lot of people go into this and they justify the purchase through their tax savings, and that might then lead them to purchasing something which is, I guess, more expensive than what they otherwise may have bought if they were buying it with another method. So when purchasing these cars or purchasing under a novated lease, I think the best way to think of it is, if I was buying this car and it wasn't under a novated lease, would I still be happy with the purchase? Would I still be comfortable going ahead with it? Because if that situation then changes within your 4-year lease, then you may be subject to those extra risks that we spoke about earlier. Now, some final thoughts. Now, I'm not saying that novated leases are a bad idea. They're certainly not. They're certainly a tool when it comes to purchasing a new vehicle. And obviously in certain circumstances, they can work out an amazing way to purchase the car. If you'd like me to run through some numbers, I guess some proper numbers in the next video, I can certainly do something like that. Just let me know if that's something that would be of interest. But otherwise, make sure that you're cutting through the noise of some of the marketing that's put in front of you when you sat down at your employer and they're going through these benefits. Make sure that you're doing your due diligence when it comes to your own situation. Don't just automatically think because someone else is jumping on the novated lease option that that would be silly for you to not do that and purchase a car with this sort of method. And guys, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.